This will be a good one, guys. Stick around for this. Huge breakdown, biggest weekly candles of the quarter, in fact, the year so far. And there's a lot of contrast between my videos. Some videos are the highs of highs, and some videos are the lows of lows. And unfortunately, this one is going to be a bit of a lower video, but these are the videos that will help you guys out the most, I think. Let's talk through the week. I've done quite a bit of different stuff this week. I had a bit of an issue with risk, and I took 2 losses on Monday/Tuesday on EU, which has allowed me to be 2% down on the funded. I ended up risking 1% on them, and I'm up 4.5%. So I only lost 2% on both of these phase one positions, which is where my risk is going to stray somewhere, due to the copy trader. But it's okay. Like it's a little blip. Losses are part of the game. I do think I shouldn't have took this loss. The same idea was based on both losses, and that's where I want to really identify where I went wrong. Took only one of the trades on the fivers, so I'm only down 1 loss on that. So it's all mixed, not quite 1.5% times 2, which should be 3% on funded next. So we're down less on funded next. We're down less on the fivers. We're down a bit more on FTMO. It's all equaling out. With a new prop firm I'm going with, they're actually broker backed, Think Capital. I will be doing a review on them. I like to do reviews, and I will do comprehensive reviews on all the prop firms I've done once I get payout. Once I've been with the firm for 3 months, at least getting a payout for a few months. I'd rather be with them for 6 months before I do anything. This is a 100k challenge, so I've got 100k on here and 100k on here. Currently in 400k's worth of challenges, all on phase one. What I like about this is one of them's down 2.5, one of them's up 4.5, one of them's not been started yet here. So they're all staggered, which allows me to blow an account, would still have 2 left. And this way, I'm using a lot of my payouts for more challenges at the minute because I'm in a phase of growth and accumulation. I'm not in a phase of being able to spend what I earn yet. And I really want to max out my allocation. And these will be the 4 prop firms I stick with. As long as I'm happy with these and I don't break rules, these are the 4 that I will only do now. I won't go with any others. I don't want to be anything more than a mil funded. I can be max allocated 300 on these with MT5, and I can be 300k with these as well. That's 600, that's 700, and that's another 400. That's 1.1. So that's more than enough. Once I've got that, I'll be settled. For the minute, they're the 4 challenges I'm going for. 3 challenges, let's say. And as we go into the week, interesting week. NFP's not even happened, as I said. Look, we've got that coming in, and that could shake up the whole week. It could change the whole dynamic, or it could make these weekly candles even stronger. From the perspective I want to tackle is where my mistake went. And I think what was difficult for this week going into it is, let's look at DXY, because I took losses on sells on EU, which means I was expecting DXY to go up. Where was my analysis in that? Well, there was clear... Let's move that down. Got that in the wrong place. But yeah, we had price on a monthly closed below the yearly open, but then it was still holding this 107. So we broke the previous monthly low, and we potentially do have price the option of coming back into 105, 500. I understood that, and we did have a double rejection at the monthly fill. As we went down to the weekly though, it just kind of looked like, okay, we are starting to see lower highs, and we can identify that you were making higher lows and you made higher highs, and then you made a higher low, and then you made a lower high, and then you broke the higher low. So in some aspects, you've seen one lower high and a break of upside structure. But it looked like to me we were having issues holding below this area. Then I started to look on the daily, and I said, you know what, that wick looks good to be taken out. So maybe we're going to see something like this, and then this, and then this. So we're going to see a retest of 107 on the weekly, come up to this area, and then drop. So my bias was more bullish on DXY, and I don't think it was very wrong to have that analysis at the time. I still think it was hard on DXY to judge rather than on EU when we go into EU for the week. And what I'm doing now is when I go into the week, I'm not going to sit here and mark up everything for you. I'm going to keep my main points of interest for the week in a lighter colour, so you can see it, but it's not in the way. Liquidity points we marked out in the white, and I'm marking POIs if I go along with you guys. But you can see here we had a bit of an upside weekly candle, to say the least. So the monthly on EU, we were holding above the current yearly open, but we were failing to bounce within the 105, 102, 500 area. My judgment on the weekly, is probably the biggest area where I went wrong, because what's always more difficult, and whilst you are in a range, yeah, it's always better to be, selling high and buying low. That's always the best option. Now, what I want to really focus on is where my lapse of judgment, because I had the right analysis and I changed my bias based on what we saw. When we actually saw on the weekly time frame, this week, we saw this week, in fact, I don't know why it shows that candle, because it's not how the candle closed over here. I don't think it was quite how the candle closed. It was actually holding back above here. When we failed basically to this area, we suggested that, okay, we're in bearish weekly structure. You can see, look, we're breaking these areas. We've then cleared them and we're continuing down. We're creating lower lows, lower highs. And at this point here, we created a lower high and then we created a higher low. This was a failure. And if this was the failure for us to be coming down, you've got to look at where the high was formed to fail that low. From the perspective of this main pullback on upside structure, that is the inducement. So if we're going to go down, we need to see that high cleared before we go down. I think that's really where I went wrong with the analysis. I was more looking on the weekly and I was going, okay, we've cleared these potential highs here. We've failed at this key level. We have a strong bearish candle with a wick to look at potential sells from. So my judgment there was we can play down into this liquidity point, and that's the inducement. But where I've gone wrong is the weekly structure is bearish, but the daily structure is bullish. And I've even marked out here, this was a high that made the daily structure bullish. We cleared all of this to the left, and then we failed to make a new low. So in this area here, this was my trend transition point on the daily. So we need to see daily breaks below that to deem we're bearish. Where that conflicts with DXY is I had this as my trend point, and that was broken on Friday. So I was almost bullish on DXY, and I should have been bullish on EU, but I've somewhere along the lines allowed my DXY analysis to get the better of me. And instead of realizing that they're both looking bullish and I probably shouldn't trade, they're not really aligning, and we're in a higher time frame range, and I'm better off seeing it cleared before we get more trades. I caught 4 buys between EU and GU within these areas. So I've caught my moves within this range. What we've then obviously identified on the 4 hour is, I like this. We had a nice 4 hour order block and I looked for a sell off it with a higher time frame position. We've obviously caught, I had a stop loss just around 105, trying to target the low that we formed. There was that trade, and then I looked on the weekly and identified that as an unmitigated wick, which I got in here, covering the high. So I was expecting if we could cover the current yearly high, play down to the low, I'd have 2 positions there, and I was going to give it 2 shots. Really, I did speak about in my analysis, I didn't want to see price come back and retest 105. If that was the case, I shouldn't have the second position really set. So really, I can't really complain about the one position. I do think there was a potential error of judgment, but it's always hindsight. You can't always get it right. And when you've caught 10R the last few weeks, missing, or I wouldn't say I've missed the trade, but there was no options for buys, and taking a sell was the wrong trade, and I've took 2. That isn't bad. That is obviously not ideal to start the month with losses, but I always look at it as a quarter, as I said before at the start of the video. We're looking to finish that quarter strong, and as long as I can be in profit and now wait for my best setup, then I know that I'll have an edge. So if that was the setups I made there, GU was difficult, and the reason why GU was difficult and I was not looking for sales off this is because we just see a monthly close engulfing candle. We've cleared 125, which we obviously come into. I was potentially expecting a retest of 125, but as we look on the higher time frames, we come into this lower fill. We tapped it the previous week, we engulfed, and that would have caught a lot of people out in sells. But where it didn't make me want to sell is on the daily time frame. I was looking at this and I was saying, okay, yeah, price has definitely had some struggles in and around, where is it? We had the weekly fair value in here as well. So this was clearly an area of interest. Price, in my eyes, come up to a weekly, which it tapped this low. We've come up, we've been bullish, we've tapped this high, we've rejected, We've come back into a weekly. We could just bounce off this. We've cleared that low. This low here was my trend transition point. So I need dailies to close below that to confirm that we're now bearish in daily structure. So even though the weekly was more bearish, the daily wasn't. And we're going to start off the week. There was no way I was trading GU. I was ideally looking for more upside on it, but I wasn't sure about this gap. Were we going to come down into it first? And I'd prefer to see that for a buy. Anyway, DXY, first day of the week. We come down. We straight up just come down below 107. No top wick for the week. EU did exactly the same. If we go to the daily, you know, I've already then took my loss. My stop loss was at 0.38. So I did actually lose that within the first day. And then really at that point, I didn't like the order flow coming into the week. We could see we were very, very bullish. It shouldn't have been that way. And maybe just seeing how strong we were pushing up and the way we gapped. It should have maybe made me make a different decision on the week. Maybe not setting these just yet, waiting for more confluence. But it is what it is. The next day, took another loss. Obviously, that trade just got decimated. So there's my 2 losses for the week. And really, the analysis, that was done. Like, you know, DXY come down. We're coming up for that liquidity wick now. GU, tested the high on Monday. No bottom wick. Where's the trade for me? I can't trade that. And now we're at the high, so I'm not going to trade. And that's where the week has just continued bullish. We've seen DXY decimate down. It is complete annihilation. And why I now look at this in a different light, especially on the weekly, is why did we all expect price to just continue? This was all hype over Trump, and there was also a lot of stuff about tariffs going on. But I think this was something to do with tariffs at the start of the week. That has sent this further down, but ultimately it's a correction of this move. This was always going to happen. And if you look on the weekly on DXY, when we previously come into higher areas, once we're starting to clear 107, if we looked at this uptrend, we saw push up, high. Big wick up. Clearly having an issue somewhere. I'm not really bothered where. I more want to show the structure purposes. You know, we see that. We see price, obviously, with a candle body break, but we created another lower high from this high. Pulled back, created a big wick rejection. That weekly after that dropped 450 pips. If we look at that wick, yeah, 460. What happened over here? Price come up, broke previous weekly high, had a rejection. Pulled back, come up again, failed again, lower high. Pull back, last weekly bullish candle, similar to that one. Difference is that's a strong weekly bullish candle engulfing, and that one was a big rejection wick. This was easy to call for the sell. This one was harder. Equally though, if you look at these two, that's where patterns repeat. And I failed to identify that. And it's noting how you can just build up a bigger edge with that. Not saying that the downside on DXY was easy to call. Likewise, the upside overall wasn't easy, especially with if you were looking to buy all around these areas at the time, then you'd have been losing. So only now can you start looking for winners. But then price did on EU just continue through. So I got it wrong this week. And you don't have to be right every week. And that's what I'm happy to sit here and say is my analysis maybe is 60-70% correct. I don't always trade when I don't know. I thought I knew there and I was wrong. And you can see it now. How many people, probably some of you guys, are still trying to sell up in these areas. Like, there is no sells. It's bullish. I'm waiting for the weekly closure. At the minute, yeah, we are very overextended. Like, the buys, the sells aren't good because we're bullish. And you can see that now based on the weekly trend change. We could see for a long time, even when we broke down here, we were bearish, bearish, bearish. We're now confirmed bullish. Why are we confirmed bullish? Because you can see here, you've got low, higher low, higher low. You're now seeing 2-3 higher lows on the weekly time frame, and you can see that this high on the daily that made the lows initially with strong volume has been cleared. We're not bearish anymore on EU. So where would you want to be buying now? Because I'm going into next week thinking, okay, we're getting into clearing this zone completely. We're now in this zone. Well, of course, you're going to want to see a high form than a pullback. If you're going to keep getting in on buys all the way up to here, that's maybe the way you trade. I don't trade like that. I need to see some kind of stalling in bullish volume. If we get retest of these areas and there's good options for further upside, I'll be buying that. Same for GU. GU's looking very, very good. It's still going up. How did that look on the weekly? Because it was also bearish. The difference is I've been more bullish on GU for a long time, ever since we were all the way down here. So as we've broken out of here, I've still been buying. Here, I've just not sold. So I'm happy with the way I've looked at traded GU. I've been very patient with being bullish on it, not only technically, but fundamentally. The pound is becoming a safe haven with all the tariff stuff going on. And in general, like GDP's gone up quite a lot on the last print. It's very hard to try and sell the pound. And then when you're looking at the dollar and it's weakening, it's a dangerous game to try and get in on that. But you can see there, if you were taking sells on GU, I don't know what you were kind of seeing there, but EU was more of an easy one to get tricked out on. And I think the buys were very difficult. There was no buy in the strategy I trade there. People might capitalise. I hope some of you guys did catch the buys this week, because it's been the best week for buys ever since, all the way back from September, October time, or even July. And that's another thing that's quite difficult for a lot of traders is, when you change a bias, if people are trying to sell the way here and you're still trying to sell in here, and then only now you want to buy, you've missed out, because there has been buy opportunities and there has been some good areas to trade this range. And as long as you capitalised a little bit on that, you can sit out now and you can wait for the next wave of consolidation or potential solid structure forming here on these pairs. But crazy week. I don't really know where we stand with how to get in next week. And that's why, if you don't know and you don't have a clue about where your entry is, there is no entry for you. You're not ready to trade this yet. And I'm certainly not ready to trade this as it is right now. There's no clear obvious options for me. And for me, just going to sit out, enjoy watching price set up. And that's also a part of trading. You don't have to be in the move. You need to watch the move and monitor it. And you need to identify exactly when your next opportunity is coming up. Because that's where you need to pounce. You need to be ready. And you need to be on it. But that's the start of March. We've got 3 more weeks left. I'm just looking for that one winner. And if that winner can come and it will take out the negative for the start of the month, and we might get another win, we might get another loss, but I've got to make sure there, after making a bit of a lapse judgment on this week, I want to make sure I'm very, very highly confident on my next setup, which I'm sure I will be now we're in different areas. But yeah, guys, take care. Speak to you all next week. Peace out. See you later.